potholes. The potholes. Welcome back to my channel. I am Dr. Anne, and this is the Health Hub. Today is a very cold, rainy day, but there's an experiment that I want to do at work. So basically, I want to ask a couple of my colleagues which high school they went to, and basically just find out. I just want to find out if the high school that you go to actually has an impact in whether or not you get into medical school. I just want to know. I really just want to know. So it will be sort of a study. I'll come up with the p values and all. I'm joking. No, not the p values. No to the p values. So yeah, I'll just be asking them. I think I'll also ask a couple of the students also, like which high schools they went to, because personally, there's a time where I thought that the high school that one goes to sort of determines where or how far they get in life. I don't know, like I thought it actually played a role, because in my mind, if you go to like a good high school, then chances of you getting good marks are higher, and chances of you getting into medical school are sort of like higher. So I always imagine that, like, if you go to like a private school, this car. So I sort of imagined that, you know, if you go to a private school, that you're more likely to be successful in life, which is sort of kind of true because of the connections that you're likely to make and whatnot, and the confidence that comes with having to be exposed to certain people and certain environments. So yeah, I'm gonna be asking them over a couple of days. Hopefully I'm done by the end of the week. So yeah, let me get to that. So yeah, basically it's still during work hours. It's around 15:25, so I just decided to go get some coffee, and it's quite around casualty because it's such a cold day. So let me give you a bit of a story time to give you context to why I'm doing this. So when I was in grade 7, I decided, I think it was at that point where I was like, I actually want to do medicine, but I still wasn't like sure, but I knew that I wanted it to be part of the things that actually, you know, did or qualified to do in the future. Ne? So I'm in grade 7. So personally, I went to one of those schools. I don't know if they call them LC schools or like work schools and stuff. Like I went to one, and it was quite cheap. Like it was very affordable for the quality. I think it still is. I think currently the fees are around 500 max for like all the grades. And for me, by the time I left school, we were paying around 200 Rand a month. So it was a good quality school. First language, basically they did give English primary as a primary language. Afrikaans was sort of forced. I mean, like any war school, guys, like Afrikaans or no, this is like the Afrikaans way or no way. So I then went to that school from preschool. Actually, since I was 4 years old, I went to the same school. So I went there from 4 years old right up until matric. But there was a point where I left for like 3 months. So let me explain to you why I left. So I left when I was in grade 7. I wanted to go to another work school. Obviously, there's levels to this work school business. So I wanted to go to this other work school because I knew like they were producing better marks. Like the students were getting, you know, more exposure. Even in terms of sports, there were more sports, hockey and tontons. Whereas the school I had was very limited. It was a good school, but it was also still very limited. So basically, I wanted to go to that work school because it was better, but it was more expensive, right? So I then went, whatever, I didn't work out, I went back home. So the motive of me having, you know, decided to leave at that point in time was that I thought that the high school that you go to actually plays a role in where you end up in life. I thought that, you know, it actually makes a difference, and that I thought if I go to this other high school, I'm probably standing a better chance of getting into medical school. But little did I know, right? Because there's also God, there's also purpose, there's also things that are meant to be. And trust, if something is for you, I don't care if you went to the ruralist of the ruralist schools and you barely can speak English, you will become whatever it is that you set out to become. I still do, however, believe that, the better the school, the better your chances of getting somewhere in life. Obviously, there's more challenges that comes with, going to a school that is not well resourced or well staffed. That's not about the teachers or anything, or the teachers being bad, just the practicality of the quality of education that you're likely to receive. If you're in a classroom where there's like 90 students that one teacher has to teach, what is the likelihood that they're going to focus on you and give you and you're going to understand whatever it is that they're trying to teach you? So there's a lot of factors that come into play that do influence whether or not you're likely to succeed. Do people who come from low end schools, like senior secondary don't schools, are their chances of succeeding low? I don't think so. But if you're looking at a spectrum of the number of people who make it coming from those schools, I think that's the most important thing to look into. Because even if there's like the school produces professionals, you find that it's 10 out of the class of 200, of 300. So I don't know, I stand to be corrected. Just jot down your views on this topic and just your thoughts, basically. If you agree with me, if you have different thoughts, just jot them down. Let me go back into work and ask these people a couple of questions, basically about where they went to study or which high school they went to. We're gonna grade the high schools based on the grading, basically, because there's private schools. Even in private schools, there's like high-end private, low-end private. There's also work schools or former model schools, and there's also high-end of that, which would be, for example, your Parktown girls and tontons, and there would be the low end, which would be where I went to, and then there is proper government schools that are in the townships and senior secondary and whatnot. And we're gonna basically categorize. And I also want to ask where they went to study, because I also want to find out if majority of the kids that went to the low end schools actually are the ones who were Cuban trained, because something in me tells me that majority, I don't know, I'll find out, I stand to be corrected, but something in me tells me that majority of the kids who are doctors who went to the low end schools are likely to have trained in Cuba, because the program was directed at that, which is something that's really good. It's a positive. But I just want to observe that situation or that point. So let's get to it. So there's a total of around 30,000 schools in South Africa, 26,000 being government or fully government funded schools or public schools, and around 1,600 of the schools being private schools. So all public schools write a specific exam, and then private schools write an independent exam. Majority of private schools are found in cities. Majority of private schools are generally better staffed, better facilities, more teachers, smaller classroom numbers. But the fees, however, tend to be very expensive. There are, however, cheaper public schools that are better quality, that are significantly cheap. Public schools, majority of them are located in townships. So there's a lot of challenges. They're generally understaffed, there's overcrowding, there's lack of facilities like textbooks, basic necessities, bearing in mind that most of the kids come from low income families. So to make this easier, I've broken down the level of schools into 4. Category 1 being public schools, which are basically free or less than 500 a year. Category 2 being the model schools, work schools, science colleges, technical colleges, which range between 2,500 to 15k per annum. Category 3 being the high-end city public schools, and the low-end private schools, which range between 25,000 to 70,000 annually. And then category 4 being the high-end top-tier private schools or IEB schools, which are 70k to 250k per annum. So basically, it's just a list of the most expensive schools in South Africa. Maybe they're the best. Hilton being the most the most expensive private school in South Africa. But weird thing, it's not part of the top 10 best performing private schools in South Africa. I wonder why. So basically, let's just categorize these doctors from my work and see where they fall into in terms of the high schools that they actually went to. Hello, Dr. Smelan. Which high school did you go to?
Senior secondary.
Senior secondary school. How much were your school fees monthly?
It was not a monthly thing. I just paid once. I think it was 150.
150 a year.
A year.
and then after that, you are Cuban trained.
Yeah.
Then you went to Cuba and
Then
trained.
I went to Cuba.
All right. Hi, Dr. Mamanda.
Hi, Dr. Maseti.
So I just wanted to ask, which high school did you go to?
I went to Little Flower Secondary School.
So how much were you paying in terms of your fees?
I was paying about 300 rands.
A year?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. And then you went on to study at
Walter Sisulu University.
This is Dr. Ndlazi from Lingana. Specifically from Manguzi, I went to SBN in primary school. I went to Mangeze High School.
Was it public school?
Yes, it's a public school.
Mm-hmm. How much did you pay a month?
I don't remember how
Or is it a
much.
year?
Yeah, it was a year.
It was a year, okay.
Yeah, I think at that time we were paying around 70 rand a year. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I went to Cuba.
Oh, you went to Cuba?
Yes, and then I finished in Yucatan.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Yola.
Hi.
Tell us about which high school you went to.
Okay, so I went to Gwakomani Comprehensive Secondary School. School fees, it's a public school. School fees was, I don't know, I think it was less than 300 per annum.
Per annum, okay.
Yes.
All righty. And then thereafter you went to...
And then I went to Cuba.
Dr. Ningiza.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm alright, thanks. How are you?
I am good. So which high school did you go to?
I went to India High.
You went to India High there?
I went to India
So
High.
how much were you paying a month?
I don't remember exactly. I think it was around 700 a month or so 1.6 or 1.7 in a term. Something like that.
All right. And then thereafter you went to?
After that, I went to Walter Sisulu University in Tata.
Tata. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Batini Nazo. I went to Cambridge High School in East London.
How much was it the school fees a year? Or a month?
Yeah, at that time, when I left Matric, I think it was 1,000 a month.
A month?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then thereafter you went to study university where?
I first went to UFS, and then I went to Walter Sisulu.
What is university?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Fushane, how are you? Ufunuba professional.
Was it YouTube? So plug YouTube.
As I said, I'll put in my YouTube channel. So
YouTube channel?
yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
So which high school did you go to?
I went to East London Science College.
So how much school fees were you paying a month or a year?
A month it was, I think, 900 to 1.2 between grade 8 to matric.
To Matric, ne? And then where did you go to university thereafter?
Waterstool University in Tata, Eastern Cape.
All right, thank you. Hi, Dr. Made.
Hello, Dr. Maseti.
How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm good, thank you. So Dr. Made is our consultant in OBS and Gynae. So I wanted to ask you, Dr. Made, which high school did you go to?
I went to Newell High School in Port Elizabeth, New Brighton.
How was it a public school?
It was a public school.
How much were your school fees?
I can't even remember. It was so cheap. I don't even remember if we were
Is it
paying
a year?
anything. It may have been free. Yeah, but no, I think there was a little amount that we were paying. But in those days, I think it would have been far less than 100 rand.
And, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then thereafter, which
Thereafter,
university?
I went to the then Medunsa Medical University of Southern Africa. Then I think it's a Sifako Makhato
Yeah.
currently. So I did my MPCHB there.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Made.
All right.
Which I wanted to ask, ne? So it's Dr. Singange.
I saw your bag. You don't like your bag. I saw your face. It's not a video call. You're gonna be famous.
Hi, Dr. Mdingi.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, and you?
I'm good, thanks. So which high school did you go to?
Kanyisa High School, Mtata,
Was it a public school?
public school.
How much did you pay a month?
It was 900 a year.
900 a year. And then thereafter, you went
Walter
to
Sisulu University.
university. Thank you.
It's a private university.
Hello, hi. My name is Taryn Abrams. I went to Point High School in Moss Bay.
How much do you pay in terms of school fees a month?
I have actually, I'm not too sure. I don't know. In high school? Sure, I have no idea.
But what type of, how much, you don't know the range? Or?
I have no idea. So it was a public school.
It was a public school?
Yeah, so I
okay.
can't remember the range, yeah.
Oh, okay. And then which university you go to now?
I went to UCT.
Okay. So we have the only one in my whole survey who actually went to a private school.
No, I never went to a private school. I went to a public school.
Hi,
I'm Nana Potoza. I'm from Elisigisiki. I actually went to Purchasing High School, which is a public school.
But a high-end public school. High-end public school.
And I went to Walter Sisulu University.
Alrighty.
I did a BSc, did my honors, then did MPCHB.
Alrighty. Thank you. Hi guys, I am back with basically the results of the study. I was able to ask a couple of people, of course, but you know, I only managed to get 11 people because people are a bit shy, man. Like, I'm just like, it's just the YouTube channel. Like, you're not gonna appear on TV or anything. Like, it's just, you know, it's just a YouTube channel. Like, but I understand. People are afraid of scrutiny. Just a special thanks to the people who actually played along and, you know, answered my questions and were able to, or were willing to basically engage me on the topic. I really appreciate it. So basically, in terms of numbers, I only managed to interview around 11 doctors. And because like 11 is like a weird number, let me sort of like add myself to the study because, you know, I prefer it to be like even numbers. Let's keep it an even number. Let's make it 12. I am Dr. Anne. I am a medical officer. I went to a public school myself. I went to a word school, or high school, in the Eastern Cape, in a very small town. And in terms of school fees, by the time I was finishing with matric, the school fees were around 250 a month, making it around 2,700 per annum. Doja High School, as you know, with most Category 2 schools, is basically a public funded school, but it's also it's semi-run by the school governing body. That's why there's not an annual fee that is paid out, but rather a monthly fee. So that's the case with a lot of Category 2 schools, especially around Eastern Cape. They are semi-funded by the government, and but they'll expect students to cough up some money. So that's why they are slightly better even in terms of administration. They tend to be better than the low end Category 1 fully government funded high school. So yeah, in terms of my study, there's issues that I need to address. It's slightly skewed, if not a lot. It's a lot. It's skewed because basically I am interviewing people who are in the same hospital, in the same area. And especially with Eastern Cape, majority of the doctors that are working in rural hospitals are people who were funded by the government or had government scholarships and therefore were obligated to come work in rural Eastern Cape. So because of that, I'm sort of, in a way selecting for people who are actually from low income type, schools or backgrounds, because majority will be people who were receiving government funding and were funded by the government to go to university and study medicine. So in that way, it's sort of skewed. So it's like I couldn't find no one else. I had to use the people that were around, the hospital. Because of the area, unlike if I would be in a city, at least in the city, you're more likely, a city hospital, whatever, you're more likely to come across people who went to, private schools or Category 4 schools. So yeah, my data is a bit skewed because of that. Apologies. Let's work with what we have. Okay, basically in terms of the numbers, 50% of the doctors went to Category 1 schools. 6 of the doctors that I interviewed went to Category 1 schools or fully government funded schools. 5 of the doctors went to a Category 2 school and only 1 went to a Category 3 or high-end public school. So basically, with that being said, out of the ones that went to like a government school or low-end Category 1 government school, 50% of them went to Cuba or were Cuban trained, which is basically my suspicion. So the whole Cuban program was directed at that, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It sort of played a role in increasing the number of black doctors that were, that are produced in South Africa. You know, the program did a lot, especially with affording a lot of the kids that are actually, you know, academically, you know, gifted, affording them the opportunity to actually, you know, study medicine. So it played a huge role in leveling the playing field in terms of the numbers, because majority of doctors that were produced were white, you know, so it played a role in leveling the playing field. None of the category 2 people were Cuban trained, but rather a lot of the category 2 people were received funding from the government, or you know, got government funding to study in a South African university. Like myself, I got a scholarship from basically the Department of Health in Eastern Cape, so they paid for my education to go to university. And with a lot of the category 2 people, because majority of us would not qualify for NSFAS because maybe your mom is a teacher or your dad is a policeman. Because of that, a lot of the forgotten middle people, they call it the forgotten middle, because we technically, even though our parents are working, but they can't technically afford university fees. Imagine jumping from, you know, my parents having to cough out 2,700 Rand a year to 130,000 Rand in terms of university fees, you know, in a year, you know. So the other observation was that there's no hiding. While I'm still on the bursary factor, 11 out of the 12 people were funded by the government, either for Cuba or for a South African university. And then the other observation also is that majority of the doctors went to a historically black university, or went to historically black universities. So basically, out of the 12 people, it's only myself and in Abrahams who went to historically white universities. That's Wits and UCT. Everyone else went to historically black universities, and those universities are Walter Sisulu University, Medunsa, UKZN is also a historically like black universities, and they're not historically black because they're owned by black people, but rather historically black because they're one of the first universities, especially during the apartheid era, to accept, you know, a lot of black students. I didn't mention the other universities like Forte, the University of Zululand, because they don't have medical schools. So I just mentioned the universities that have medical schools that are historically black. Né? So that also goes to show that, you know, those universities also played a role in also producing or increasing the number of black students or black doctors produced, you know, because maybe their numbers in terms of acceptance of, you know, black people is higher than the other universities. Historically black universities will take, you know, more black people, especially if they are from, you know, from the area or Eastern Cape based, if it's an Eastern Cape university. In terms of the high school, I personally don't think the high school you go to matters. I think it depends on you, if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to do what is necessary to get the marks that you know are of the best of what you can do personally. I'm split into two, because after talking to a lot of people, majority of the people who go to category 1 high schools, you find that they were the top of the top, like the cream of the crop. Like, for you to actually make it when coming from a low end you know, government school, you have to be the best of the best, because of the challenges that come with, you know, going to a public school. Guys, some schools won't have teachers for months on end. You know, there's no teacher to come teach a specific grade, whether you're in matric or what. If there's no teacher, you have to study for yourself. There's no textbooks. So a lot of those schools, like, for you to make it in those schools, you have to literally be the best of the best. And a lot of students who also have potential, who are maybe like middle level, who just maybe needed that push, would not be able to reach their full potential because of the lack of resources, overcrowding, and don. Whereas in a private school, you find that someone who's not particularly like gifted like that academically, because of the extensive, like, you know, tutoring and this and money and resources and, you know, extra classes and this, they're able to reach their full potential, or actually max out their full potential. So yeah, I think private schools help in that sense. And after talking to a couple of people about this, you know, having to go to a private school also helps, because you're able to, you know, make connections, and you find that someone who's not particularly like gifted academically is able to get further in life just because of connections solely, whether they went to varsity or didn't. You know, they're able to get somewhere in life based on, you know, connections, whereas you may have been smart and gone to university and end up, you know, working a low income, low level job because you just don't know the right people to put you in the right places. So it's guys, it's rough. But I feel like personally also, we can't overlook the fact that there's also God, and that, you know, if you are meant to be somewhere in your life and God created you to end up in a specific level in your life, I mean, there's purpose. And whether you like it or not, whether you come from a, you know, low income home, no parents, you know, no money and things like that, if it's really, really meant to happen to you and it's meant to be, trust that it will happen. In saying that, thanks for watching. Please comment. I'd like to actually, you know, get a couple of people who went to category 4 schools or category 3 schools, just to find out, like, actually, especially if they're in the medical field, just to say, okay, I'm in this, whatever. So you can also comment down below. Let's continue playing the game. If you have something different to say, or a different opinion, obviously a lot of these things, you know, are sent to be corrected. It's just my opinion. Yeah, I will catch you on my next video. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, and do subscribe. Thanks for watching.